Hello, this is Laura Dovalo. Thank you for stopping by. Today we're going to make a round tilt and pivot card with one of my favorite Bertie Brown stamp sets. It's called Magical Friends, and I'm sure you already have it in your stash. We can tilt the card while holding it or place it on a flat surface to rock it back and forth. I actually made a version of this card with a rainbow months ago, but never got around to making a tutorial for it. Another cute idea would be to use a boat or a rocking horse instead of the dragon. Okay, let's get to it. We're going to need the third and fourth largest dies from the A2 Stitch Circle STAX Die-namics. We'll use the largest one that measures 4.5 inches to cut a card base and a panel. We can either fold a piece of cardstock and run the die through our machine like this. Or we can cut two separate circles and mark one of them at 3/4 of an inch. Then we just fold the flap, rub it with a bone folder, add liquid adhesive or double-sided tape to it, and adhere it to the second circle. I actually prefer this method since my Big Shot is new and has really tight rollers. Now we can start working on our panel. The 4.5-inch circle is cut out of Summer Splash and the 4-inch circle out of Sour Apple cardstock. I always like to file the borders of my die cuts with a nail file to get rid of any paper burr. To shorten this tutorial, I stamped, die cut and colored the dragon with the little girl off camera. Believe me, you would be bored to death watching me color. I used the grass border from the pop-up wiper card components Die-namics to cut the edge of a piece of jelly bean green cardstock, and now I'll use the 4.5-inch circle die to cut the rest. This piece ended up being about 1 3/8 of an inch tall, and it's the perfect size for our sentiment. There are a lot of great ones in this big stamp set. I heat embossed mine in white off camera. Next, we need to figure out how tall our hill is going to be. It doesn't necessarily have to be round on the top. We could just use half a circle with a straight cut or even a little grass edge, or if you're making an ocean-themed card, a wavy edge. I just wanted to give the illusion of a flying or leaping dragon with as much sky showing as possible. My hill ended up being 2 3/8 of an inch tall, but it doesn't have to be exact. As long as it doesn't interfere with your mechanism, it's fine. My sky was looking a little bit empty, so I added some white clouds from the same stamp set. I stamped them with Sweet Tooth pigment ink and used a Q-tip to smear it. Then I added some extra detail with a white gel pen. Off camera, I also drew some grass on the hill with a couple of copic markers. As always, you'll find a complete list of markers, as well as the measurements in the description box below. On to the mechanism. I used the bars from the Twist and Turn Interactive Die-namics to cut two pieces out of Summer Splash cardstock, and now I'm going to use liquid glue to stack them. They have 3 holes in them, but we're only going to use the middle one. We will also need a little brad and a small coin, a penny perhaps, and since they are usually quite dirty, I'm just gonna clean it with some rubbing alcohol before gluing it to our bar. I'm gonna use 2 layers of score tape, but any strong adhesive will do. Hold on a second, let's see if we have enough room to add double-sided tape to our panels. It's best to snip off the end of the bar until that extra hole. We can round the corners with a pair of scissors. Okay, let's figure out where the hole for the brad needs to be. I only now realized that it's almost in the center of our main panel, so that's a good reference for you. But just in case, I wanted to make sure that it was correctly centered horizontally, so I marked it with a pencil first. And then I used the same sized circle in printer paper, folded in half, to draw a little reference line before actually piercing the panel. Now we can link our tilting bar to it with a brad. Remember to put a credit card or something thick between the prongs and the paper so that they aren't too tight. And give the panel a little wiggle to make sure that it moves easily. Since the penny is quite thick, we will need some chunky foam dots to adhere the hill to the panel. These have a thickness of 1/8 of an inch, and while I'm adding them I'm smiling because they start looking like a row of monster teeth or something like that. Take your time to adhere this element or panel. We want the card to be able to rock back and forth perfectly, so both panels need to be flush. We can use 2 more of these thick foam dots to limit the movement of the bar, and it's actually better to adhere them now with a pair of tweezers, since you can see your elements perfectly and don't have to do any guessing. Centering things on a round card base is not easy, so I'm going to adhere it to my work surface with some washi tape using the fold and the grid as a reference. To adhere my panel to the card base, I'm using these foam squares that are about 1/16 of an inch thick. For this type of card, regular double-sided tape won't work. It's too flat, and the brad needs a lot of space to move. Once again, we need to work slowly and carefully. And to adhere the dragon to the bar, I'm using one of the thick foam dots from before, plus another thinner foam square that I'm turning into a foam dot with my scissors. Sorry about the angle, but I need to get really close to make sure that the foam isn't showing. And before we finish the card, let's test the mechanism. This is looking good. The only thing left is to add our sentiment layer, and once again we need to be careful to keep it at the same level as the rest. As a last touch, I decided to add a couple of flowers, also from the Magical Friends stamp set. And that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a big thumbs up if you did, and if you have any questions or comments, I will be more than glad to answer them. Thank you so much. Bye bye. Hasta la vista.